Welcome to My Northern Roots, a podcast about my experience as a Northern Roots Oldham community champion. In this episode, I'll introduce myself, the Northern Roots Project, who's involved and what it's all about. As you'll hear, it's a diverse and inclusive project, one dedicated to improving and managing an area of land in the centre of a post-industrial heartland. It's also a project that, for many of those involved, connects on a deeply personal level as we explore our heritage, our history and our environment. In a town where nature gave way to the relentless might of industry, we ask a question first posed in 1902. A beautiful Oldham. Why not? Welcome to My Northern Roots. My name's Matt Dean, and on the 9th of February 1978 I was born in Boundary Park Hospital, Oldham, which is in Greater Manchester or Lancashire, depending on which way you want to look at it. In the same hospital, in the same year, the world's first so-called test tube baby, Louise Brown, was born. And the day after I was born, on the 10th of February, Oldham Athletic, the football club, whose Boundary Park Stadium is right next door and whose floodlights cast a shadow right across that hospital, drew 2-2 away at Charlton Athletic in a fixture in what is now known as the Championship, or in those days it was called Division 2. By all accounts, i.e. from my mum and dad, I was a very loud baby. I cried a lot and I drove them pretty much insane, to be honest. Unless I was eating or asleep, in which case I was fine. I'm 45 now, and although I tend not to cry very often, I do tend to be happiest still when I'm asleep or eating. And although I don't cry very much, I can talk a lot, and I do tend to have a lot to say, particularly when it comes to this grey, wet, hilltop town that I call home and its famous football club. This month, i.e. November 2023, I'm delighted to say that I was appointed to be a community champion for the Oldham Northern Roots Project. And this podcast is a project within a project. So let me tell you a little bit about the Oldham Northern Roots Project. Northern Roots is, and I quote directly from the website here, creating the UK's largest urban farm and eco-park on 160 acres of stunning green space in the heart of Oldham, Greater Manchester, or Lancashire. A unique new community asset and visitor destination. Its vision is harnessing urban green space to benefit people, planet and place, and its mission is transforming 160 acres of green space into a destination for learning, leisure and growing to benefit the environment and improve health, well-being and livelihoods. It says then, from market gardening to mountain biking, forest schools and woodland weddings, get involved and come and join the journey with us and help bring the vision to life. So, I've known about the Northern Roots project as a concept for a while, and I've been keeping my eye on it via social media, but without really, if I'm honest, taking a great deal of interest, mostly due to the fact that it was in its infancy pretty much over the last couple of years, and I've been busy setting up my own business. I moved back to Oldham in the summer of 2021 after spending 10 years living and working in Dublin in Ireland. I came home as soon as COVID travel restrictions allowed it, and without going into all the detail right now, let's just say I've been going through a very difficult period prior to and over the time, which will forever be known as lockdown. Thankfully, there was something that kept me focused and my head above water and connected to my people back home during that period, and that was the Boundary Park Alert System, an Oldham Athletic fan podcast that I started in September 2020. To cut a very long story short, at this juncture, when I moved back to Oldham, I was the host of a successful, indeed now award-winning podcast, and was playing a leading role in what was a very turbulent time in the club's history. I mentioned that the club was in Division 2 when I was born. Well, having briefly spent some time in the top division, the Premier League, it now languishes in the 5th, the National League, so it's not great. What I've learned through my experience is that if you're passionate about something, like football, for instance, in this case, you can connect and communicate with others who share that passion via the medium of podcasting. And through that passion, through that connection, you can truly affect positive change. So, now back, starting afresh in my hometown, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And in August 2022, I started QPod, which is KUPOD. Currently, Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company. I love a great conversation, and I love listening to people tell their stories. That's why podcasting is such an exciting medium for me to work with and to consume. We've all read a biography or listened to a biography. We've all listened to our favourite celebrities share their backstories, their background, their achievements, or heard someone share an extraordinary story on the radio. And as much as that can be really fascinating and inspiring, and it is, so can listening to the story of the person next door, or the taxi driver who collects you, or the person who serves you fish and chips. Everyone has an important story, and that story really is our legacy. And that's what QPod is set up to do, is to help you share your stories with the audience that needs to hear them. But it's not just people who have stories, so do places. In fact, the two are completely intertwined like threads of DNA. You can't have one without the other. So fast forward to the present time, and how else would I document my experience as a Northern Roots community champion than by delivering it as a podcast? It just seems like the obvious thing to do. The Oldham Northern Roots project is about protecting, managing and loving a piece of land that stretches from what is virtually the town centre, surrounded by housing and industry across 160 beautiful acres. As part of my community champion role, it's important that I understand the history of this particular stretch of land, but it also goes beyond that. My interest stretches way beyond that. I've always been proud to be from Oldham. It's not a glamorous place, but in my opinion, its people are kind and lovely, its history is rich and interesting, and its geography is as captivating and beautiful as it is damp. I want to use this opportunity to explore my own personal roots in this town, discover how this place has helped to shape me and my ancestors. I want to learn how this land, this dwelling, this hive of industry has changed, and to think deeply of what it will become in my lifetime and beyond. I'm incredibly proud to be part of this project, and I'm really grateful to those who have given me the opportunity to be involved. I want to ensure that over the next 6 months, I make the absolute most of the role I've been given, and I sincerely hope that whoever is listening to this will enjoy going on that journey, the journey of my northern roots with me. So that's kind of like the introduction out of the way. I don't plan to read from a scripted, pre-written script every week. It's not really my style. I want to have conversations with people, and I want to talk to all the other people who are involved in this project. But you have to start somewhere, right? And my Northern Roots journey started when I noticed something interesting on Instagram. I was scrolling my life away as I do a few weeks ago, and I noticed a beautiful piece of artwork and the words, "The Beautiful Oldham Society." So needless to say, my interest was piqued by this straight away. The design was kind of Art Nouveau in style, and when I looked closer, it revealed itself to be a post from the Northern Roots project. And they were recruiting for a project called Beautiful Oldham. Why not? Why not indeed? So I thought I'd message them directly and sort of see what happened. The Beautiful Oldham Why Not phrase is taken from the title of a letter written by Mary Higgs to the Oldham Chronicle newspaper in 1901. Mary described herself as student, pioneer, wife and mother, undercover tramp and social reformer. We'll have to come back to what that means, especially the undercover tramp bit, but it's really, really interesting. Her letter suggested that the then smoke-filled Lancashire town could indeed be turned into a beautiful city, something that no doubt other people thought was crazy, but not Mary. Then the following year, according to the Gallery Oldham website, saw the founding of the Beautiful Oldham Society, which encouraged children through schools to grow and care for plants, and individuals were encouraged to plant window boxes. By this time, the Garden City movement had started to gain momentum in England, and Mary, who'd been impressed by Hampstead Garden suburb in London, went on to propose the building of a garden suburb in Oldham. Designed by Ebenezer Howard, Oldham's garden suburbs was officially opened in 1909 with a gala ceremony, and it's still there now as a lovely little part of town. Mary was the inspiration to this project, and I just find it fascinating that someone who lived in a very different time and a very different Oldham could be on the same wavelength as me. I feel exactly the same way as Mary. Why can't Oldham be beautiful? It's surrounded by beautiful countryside. It has some of its beautiful historic buildings still intact. And in my eyes, just as in Mary's, it has great potential. Oldham's grey, but that's okay. It's green and blues of many hues. It's dark, it's light, it's dull, it's bright, it's stone brick red and tarmac spread. Its skin is white and brown and black. Its muddy boots and stains on rugs. Leave it, love, give us hug. Oldham's grey, that's okay, 'cause colours change, this is the way. So we've done this before, but because I'm a wally, I didn't actually record it, so we're going to do it again. So can you just introduce yourself again, please?
Yep, my name's Faiza Awan, and I'm working on the Northern Roots project with yourself.
You are a community champion.
I'm a community champion, I forgot to mention that, yeah. I'm a community champion on the Northern Roots project. It was just suggested to me by someone who saw the advert, and I didn't really know a lot about it. I had a look into it, and it sounded really interesting. And so I applied, and I was selected. Because I work in the community and I work with community groups, so she probably thought it was something that would be suitable for me and that I'd be able to contribute to. So she just said, well, have you seen this? I said, oh yeah, I've looked into it, but not in a lot of detail. And she said, why don't you give it a go? Because obviously they're looking for voices from Oldham to represent different communities and diverse communities in Oldham. And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go.
Can you describe your connection to Oldham?
My connection to Oldham is I was brought up here. I was born down south, came up here when I was about 6. My connection, I guess, from the point of view of heritage, is my dad came over in the 60s from Pakistan. And when the young lads were brought over in the 1960s to work in the mills, don't think anyone in that generation really had the intention of settling. But they came over, and then obviously I think they stayed for longer than was initially expected, and then they were encouraged to bring over spouses. And then my mum came over, and we were born. Yeah, so that's my connection. I've been brought up here and lived here nearly all my life, most of my life. I've gone to school here and everything. Yeah.
Well, that's your sort of physical connection. Like, what other connections do you have, like emotional connections or spiritual connections or anything that's slightly different?
I'd say, to be honest, it's always been kind of... it's a weird one, because I think if I speak to, let's say for yourself, your connection seems to be deeper, and I assume it's because it's generationally. I think maybe because obviously you're indigenous to Oldham and you've got family here, and your roots seem to be, that's how you tend to assimilate with somewhere, isn't it? Where you see how far back your roots have gone. With me, I mean, Oldham's always been home, and like I said, I've worked here, I've been to college here, school, raised a family here, so I do consider myself to be an Oldhamer. As far as how deeply connected I feel, I don't really think I gave it much thought, to be honest, and I don't think you do on the day-to-day. You just work and live, don't you? You don't really think and sort of analyse Oldham as a town and sort of really feel affiliated to it, so I don't really think I did. But it's really interesting coming here and listening to everybody else's story, and then you get the time and the space to actually give it some thought and to think about it and to review your life and look back. And that's what this project's done in regards to the heritage part of it, which I was looking at my heritage and my connection. And my heritage is obviously from Pakistan, but my father and my mother lived the majority of their lives in Oldham. I've been brought up here. That's why I decided to sort of look into the heritage and the mills and the stories of that generation that came over. So it's kind of inspired me to take a deeper look. Whereas on the day-to-day, I don't think I really gave it an awful lot of thought.
I mean, we're about, 4 weeks in now, 3 or 4 weeks in, aren't we? This is our 3rd or 4th session, I think, proper. So, but yeah, we're about 6 weeks in, I think, since we started, since the induction. Have you come to any different realisations? Has the conversations changed your way of thinking in terms of that heritage connection and all that kind of stuff? Or is it just something that's still sort of settling in you a little bit?
It's still settling in, but I have definitely sort of delved in a bit deeper with the heritage part of it, in the sense I'm looking for more resources from the 60s more connected to the mill workers who came from abroad, their working conditions, their aspirations, their story really. So yeah, I think I'm looking into it more deeply now that we're sort of going further into it, and I've decided to kind of focus on that generation, because I do think we're in danger of, I mean, we've lost a lot of them and their stories are not really told. They haven't really been told, and probably along with a lot of other groups as well in the community. But I think it would be a good opportunity to tell their story and to learn about it, because growing up we heard bits and bobs here, but I think when you're young you don't really pay attention to it, whereas I'm older now and I think you tend to look back a little bit more when you get to this point in your life and just respect history and heritage more.
I think it's because I have an immigration story in my background, because my grand's Italian, so
Right.
she moved over just after the war. My granddad met her when he was stationed in Italy after the war and all that. So the war is my connection to that. But I think it's really interesting, like you say. I think for people within your community to know about that heritage, but also for people from other communities within the broader community to learn about that history, because I think there's a lot of ignorance about things like immigration and all that kind of stuff, and racism and all that kind of stuff. So these stories I think they are really, really important. How do you plan to extract those stories and to share them?
It's interesting. I'm just going to hound people that I know, really. That's the plan. I'm going to hound people that I know, obviously maybe put it out into my community groups. We've got elders as well who may be willing to tell their story. So I think it's really a case of really getting into the community and just sort of asking those questions and seeing if people are willing to come forward, if they can recall, if they want to talk about it. I think really it's one of those periods in history, people, I mean, you move on so much in life, don't you? I think it's so far back for so many people, but that's why it's important to get that out there, because like you said, there's a lot of ignorance, there's a lot of racism as well, and there's a lot of division. And I think when you find out the actual facts of history about why people came here and how they were connected prior to the mills as well, the cotton, where it came from, and all there's Oldham businessmen who were stationed out in India. It wasn't Pakistan or Bangladesh, it was just India, and they ran the cotton mill. So there is a deep connection, and it's centuries old, isn't it? And I think history puts a lot of things in context and can right a lot of wrongs, in the sense that wrong misconceptions. So from that angle, I'm hoping it's going to be eye-opening. Fingers crossed. I
mean, I was thinking when you were saying that, and you were saying about the young men coming over to work, and then you were talking about spouses coming over. So you've got like loads of different stories. You've got the stories of those men, then you've got the stories of those women, their individual journeys, and then you've got the stories of the coming together, the marriage, and then you've got the stories of the family, then you've got the stories of the kids. There's a lot going on there, and all those stories are going to be completely unique. There are going to be similarities that run through them, but they're all going to be unique, and there's a lot of things to learn from that, isn't there?
Yeah, and it'll be a learning curve for me as well. Obviously, I know my story quite briefly from my dad, but obviously never really delved into it. But we heard things growing up. You heard stories now and again. Maybe we had a conversation, it came up. But I don't remember ever specifically sitting down and asking him about that time, or him really opening up about it. So it will be really interesting. And like you said, there's so many different unique stories. Yeah, it's weaved in with the similarities, obviously, of the situation that they've found themselves in, but everyone's family and everyone's background was unique. So yeah, I'm hoping it will be interesting.
My name's Thomas Roach. I'm a community youth champion for Northern Roots. And as I said, my main expertise is in like creative and design and things like that. I am 21. I come from around the Oldham/Manchester area. And my creative background is, right now I've been studying at Oldham College, and recently I got like a merit in my graphic design course, and I've also taken part in numerous world skills competitions as part of the college as well. It came to me from another course I'm on right now, an employability course from the college. It came up to me and they said, is this something you're interested in? I looked at it, I was like, this will be some good experience for me, so I might as well apply and hope I can get the job. It's been quite enjoyable, if I'm being honest. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but yeah, I enjoyed it. The people around here are pretty good, and it's kind of a nice relaxed atmosphere. And to be fair, in my kind of already knew about this project because they came in for a graphic design competition in my college once, so I kind of had quite a bit of information on it. But I think the thing that shocked me is kind of like the grand scale of it all. Like, I didn't expect it to be like this massive and have this many plans for the future and stuff. So that's how I'd say, like, it shocked me overall. Well, my main ideas tend to focus around sports. So the main one I'm deciding to go with is like a multi-sports path route type thing. So you can use it for running, cycling, and other sorts of sport. You can even go there on like a normal day and just take a nice leisurely walk around the place. I'd say it's a big passion of mine.
So you'd use this site for running and walking and that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be a good opportunity just to like get the community involved. You can go out, have a nice run with friends, and you can keep active and stay healthy and really help, everybody. I'd say I'm kind of looking forward to the end goal of everything here, because I think it's quite important to kind of lift Oldham up as well and not just see it as like Manchester light, if you get what I mean. Yeah, that's something I think is quite important, because my mum's from here and my dad's from Manchester as well, so it's kind of like I'm a meeting for the middle of them both. So
it's a really interesting point, that, because when I was in Burnley, I go out and do gigs and stuff in different places, and they sort of like, they asked me where I'm from, and I said Oldham, and they tend to go, oh, Manchester, and it's like no, Oldham, it's like separate to Manchester, but it's kind of that. I think Manchester light is a really interesting way of putting it.
I also see myself more from Manchester, but that's just more because where I've done most of my things have been Manchester. But I think it's important to give Oldham like that thing that they can have, and they can say we stand out from Manchester and all these other surrounding boroughs. Well, that's what we hope the end goal can be, isn't it? Like, that's what we're all kind of building up to, and if that happens, happy day, isn't it?
Hi, my name's Dawn. I'm a local resident of Oldham, have been all my life, and I'm one of the community champions here at Northern Roots. I've volunteered previously for the organisation, and so I followed them on Facebook and saw the vacancy advertiser, and I was like, I'd love to be more involved with this organisation. I really believe in what they're doing.
What is it about the Beautiful Oldham? Why not? Because that's what got me with when I saw the post on Instagram, which was about Beautiful Oldham and this project, and it's something connected with me about it. What is it that made you sort of like, oh yeah, that sounds...
Well, I did an environmental science degree back when I was pregnant with one of my daughters. I just got the urge to start saving the planet and doing more in terms of conservation and ecology, those kind of things. So when I found out there was a project in the town that was like-minded for, preservation and developing people's appreciation of nature, that's really what got me on board with it.
How are you finding the whole thing so far?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Sometimes I'm like... I suppose because I'm a busy person with a busy life, sometimes it's like I get the urge to try and, can we just, but I like the pace. I like the pace. I appreciate it. Getting the input from professionals from outside, like the Salford University team and the team of branders that we saw today, and also just... It's great working in such a big group because you've got such a range and diverse backgrounds and ideas for the project and motivations that it makes it far more broad ranging than it would be if you were just a project manager on your own.
It is a really diverse group, not just in terms of like ethnicity and sex and all this kind of stuff, just in terms of like, backgrounds and... the way that people see things, I think, is what I'm trying to say. The way that people interpret things and that kind of stuff. I work on my own, so I tend to want to do things at my own pace. But what I enjoy about coming here is just sort of sitting back and just letting other people kind of run it and do it and contributing in my own way. I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, likewise. I have very definite ideas about how I want to approach this role, and it's so refreshing to see all these different, ideas that come from completely different places than your own. It opens your own perspective and your understanding. Yeah, I love the variety. It's the spice of life, so they say.
For me, it feels like one of those kind of like potentially life-changing opportunities and moments where I feel like it's connected me back into the town and my heritage, and this whole thing, this whole way of thinking, it's just something which has been sort of floating around in my mind for wanting to do but not actually had like an opportunity to do it. This has created that opportunity, and so it feels like it's plugged me into something which I'm really excited about and really want to keep going. What's the first 6 weeks been like for you from that point of view? Has it had any kind of a profound experience on you, or are you kind of like just warming up slowly into it, or what?
A bit of both, I'd say. Like I said, what the impression for me, the more strong impression has been of the diversity and us all coming together under one common cause. I love that. Some of the workshops and some of the information that we've been given about the history of the site, the history of Oldham, those have been quite profound because there were things I just didn't know. So it's really nice to connect with those things that bring you to today. I mean, even the fact that this town was a rainforest 300 million years ago, like, makes you feel like a speck in the ocean in terms of the universe and time and everything. It's, it's nice being part of something that also it's going against that extra, the industrialisation and the, turning everything into a concrete jungle, because nature provides for us so much. The least we can do is give something back.
I really like the idea of this project spreading throughout the town in terms of like what it can do and claiming back some of the former industrial, because obviously there's huge pressure to build houses and all that kind of stuff, and keeping green spaces and seeing trees and plants and things grow in harmony with the built environment as opposed to the built environment destroying it. Do you think there's much potential for that in the legacy of this project?
I do hope so. From the roots that are being put down now, and from what I've been seeing and hearing and reading about the organisation, then I definitely think it's going to be a preserved land for some time to come. You're correct in saying like more people equals more need for housing. We still need those green belts. They're essential for our health. This particular site as well, there's going to be food grown on the site and people learning new skills, as well as that downtime that we all need, from rat racers to people who enjoy the countryside or nature as an occupation or as a serious hobby. I think it's going to be a wonderful site for everybody.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a place where people are going to come from outside the area, people from the area are going to use it, and I think it's going to be a place that we're all going to be very proud of. After the next meeting, I want to find out about your projects, because we're going to talk about that a bit more, aren't we? So have you got? Can you give us a brief idea about what you're going to do in the community from next year?
Yeah, sure. So my ideas were basically from the eco point of view and trying to consider groups who are going to support that, groups who already are quite ecologically aware, groups like ramblers or nature groups, bird watchers, all groups who already have an interest in preserving and respecting nature, just to keep the feel the same. I don't want it to be an untouched place. I'd love to see people enjoying it, on a regular basis, but I know that the groups that I want to approach are still going to respect it. We're not going to get littering issues or people creating issues there. So that was my main idea, keep it simple and keep it natural.
I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see evolve, like how people want to use a space like this, how people want to see it transformed, how you keep a certain amount of integrity, and that whole kind of, there's going to be a lot of back and forth, I think, in terms of discussion and debate and ideas, and like people with different views. It might get quite interesting and heated maybe at some points, in terms of like what kind of things might be put on here, what kind of things might be built, and all that kind of stuff. What do you think about the plans that you've seen so far, and do you think that is it going in the direction that you would like it to?
Yeah, I think they've done a lot of careful consultation with environmental groups, people who legislate, and organisations who understand and analyse, land types, soil types, the species here. There's been much work to make sure that, for example, new planting is going to be within the Pennine Plains, I think the phrase was. Basically, indigenous plants, so that we don't mess with the landscape, that we keep it genuine, we keep it natural to the area. So I think they've put lots and lots of work in to make sure what they're doing here isn't going to, they're not trying to recreate something artificial. They're just trying to work with what's there and just develop it in a way that's going to be a little more aesthetically pleasing to encourage visitors and people. And obviously it's going to encourage more wildlife. The planting schemes that they're talking about are going to encourage more butterflies, more pollinators, so fabulous.
It's going to be like a little oasis, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it is, isn't it, already, isn't it? But like, it's going to be exciting to see what actually happens, and give it 5-10 years, whatever.
Oh yeah. The visions for the future of it, they sound wonderful. They really do. Inspired by people in history, getting together, having the charity status developed, getting the planning permission, all the things that are going in place now. I can semi-visualise this beautiful place here in the future, and it's going to be a really good thing for the town, for everybody who visits it. Yeah, great stuff.
It's exciting to be part of, isn't it?
It most certainly is. Yeah, it really, really is.
Next time on My Northern Roots. I think it's just the simple act of like planting some seeds, watching them grow, then seeing wildlife attracted to them, makes you realise that you're part of something bigger.
Jeff Hamilton on Gardener's World, he was an advocate of organic gardening. In the 70s, he was somebody who inspired me. I was a blonde hairdresser who never got hands dirty. I had red fingernails and my hair was always pristine. And I saw him on Gardener's World, and he got dirty jeans on where he'd been kneeling in mud, and it just inspired me. And it was because of him I became a gardener.
The Beautiful Oldham Why Not project is a Northern Roots project funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. If you'd like to learn more about Northern Roots, please visit northern-roots.uk. This podcast has been hosted, recorded, edited and produced by Matt Dean of QPod, Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company. For more info, please visit kupod.co.uk.